September 5 is about the terrorist attack which occurred at the 1972 Munich Olympic Games, which is something that you may have lived through if I reach that age demographic on this video, or more likely it's something that you learned about during a history lesson. And for my younger audience, do you remember that one scene from The Dictator when he's playing on the Wii? Yeah. However, Tim Philborn, the director of this movie, decided to take a bit of a different approach when telling this story, and he focuses more so on this sports journalism crew from the ABC who are in Munich covering the games, and their office just so happens to be within a couple hundred meters of where this atrocity is occurring. And so we mainly follow our four main characters, Rune, Jeffrey, Marvin, and Marianne, played by Peter Sarsgaard, John Majaro, Ben Chaplin, and Leonie Benesch. Jeff, played by John Majaro, is essentially the director of this sports broadcasting team, and he's the one calling all the big shots and telling people exactly what to say. And John Majaro does an incredible job of showing you just how much of a toll telling this story is really taking on him and the entire team as well. Leonie Benesch being another great example of it. And her character is like the representation of the entire country's shame in having this terrorist attack play out on a targeted group of people, which they obviously have a really bad history with, and they're trying to move past that and get out of the dark days and show that they are a peaceful people. And I gotta say, September 5 really opens your eyes to how incredibly weird it is for a news broadcasting team to be telling the story of a terrorist attack that's occurring in real time, live, on television, and to still have this mentality of owning this story and being recognized as the channel that broke the news to the entire world, and even going as far as superimposing their logo on the broadcast like a fucking steak ad that clip farming channels would use. And the 95-minute runtime for this movie is perfect. They do not spare a single second of it, and they are still able to show you the entire process of getting this story from 16mm film that they shoot of the terrorists at the Olympic Village all the way to the news broadcasting station and then onto the screens, and showing how the whole thing is superimposed with titles and graphics and everything, and then cutting between the news broadcaster speaking directly to the camera, breaking the news, and then all the way to the footage that they shot at the Olympic Village of the terrorists, and then even previous interviews with the athletes that have been taken hostage. It's an extremely well-oiled machine, and this movie really makes you feel like a fly on the wall just watching this entire event occur live in real time. And the large majority of this movie is shot indoors, so it feels like every scene is just lit up by either the fluorescent lights on the ceiling or the backlit LCDs of the screens that they're looking at the entire time. It's almost like none of the characters in this movie are ever perfectly lit, because they only stay in this really dark and seedy office environment that's filled with either screen light or the red light that you'd see in a dark room. By the end of this movie, even though the terrorist attack has concluded and the events of this movie have finished and the news broadcasting team are finally taking a break, for some reason you still have this really heavy weight on your shoulders of what just happened, and you can't just brush it off, and you can't just take that sigh of relief, because you're still sitting with these thoughts. And from what happened in the movie and the events, of course, they all still just sit with you, and you really sit there at the end of this movie when the credits roll contemplating what you just felt like you were a part of. And this movie really makes you feel like you were there in that sports journalism studio. The final shot is not just an example of how this character felt at the end of finishing a day of work. It feels almost like a mirror image of exactly how you feel as well when the credits roll. This is a really fast-paced and high-intensity telling of the 1972 Munich Olympic Games terrorist attack, with some really great acting, really well shot, and great directing as well. And September 5 is solid. I really thought this movie knew its audience, because when I first walked into the theater, there was an old couple sitting in the front row. 10 minutes into the movie, they realized this ain't no Bob Dylan biopic.